All right, welcome back. This is the Junto episode 52, pretty sure. And I'm your host, Noah Sawyer. So, yeah, okay, just trying to get back in the swing of things here. Basically, this show is a way for me to share my my view of my desk, the view of my dirty desk. It's a way for me to share just things that are going on in my life, because I feel like a lot of us we're in a society where we're mostly inundated with a lot of negativity. To put it extremely generally, I would consider it all negativity. But in actuality, and in each of our singular lives, that shows up in very different ways for each of us. We all have different relationships with different people. We literally all have completely different relationships with different people, as many similarities as there can be. And so I do this show so that I can share my thoughts and reflections that I find to be more on the heartening and positive side, or at least on the constructive side, because it's not always directly in a way, I want it all to be constructive toward a hopeful strategy for navigating the future, through cutting off all these negative maladaptations that we've had to develop in order to survive in what is a rather hellish world. So this will be, it has to be kind of a quick show because I want to go to church soon. And so, yeah, I'm going to share a few readings, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that's been going on in my life lately. I chose the title Pursuing Peace because in a way, I'm not really sure how to start off doing this show again, because when I started it, I was not Christian, and now I'm Catholic, and all that really means is that I have had some level of worldview shift or worldview transformation. So my beliefs about like the ontological qualities of the universe, and also in a sense the moral qualities of the universe, are different now. Like, I see the world differently, and I'll touch on that just a little bit here, but sometimes it feels a little daunting to get back into streaming again, because I've had, in a way, my conversion has been like a long drawn out ego death in a certain way, and it is also still happening. So part of me is tempted to put off starting the show again until I feel more rested or more put together or more able to share things clearly. But then I think back to the night that I started the show on New Year's Eve, and another big part of this is that I don't want to do all of that organization just in private, whether it be in private conversations or in my own organization of papers and text files and books and PDFs. I don't want it to be totally separate. So I'm not a perfect speaker, but I'm seeking to improve just by exercising in this medium. So I decided, yeah, I'm just gonna roll with it and see what happens. So I'm gonna talk today about, I wound up thinking about this concept of pursuing peace, like putting your eyes on peace and not taking your eyes off, and trying to arrive at a deep type of inner peace, because I think that gets to the heart of my conversion in a way. And this stream's not going to be strictly about my conversion or about Catholicism or Christianity. It's just, I think it's a good entry point, because honestly, sometimes I'm like, should I just do like a Christianity 101, like my perspective on what the universe is now and how it has shifted to come in line with events that transpired 2,000 years ago and before and after. And maybe I'll do something like that, but I don't think we need to just jump into it that way. But I will lay out two major beliefs that I have, two, maybe more. I think you could look at it like two. So fundamentally, I believe in an all-good God that created the world. And I cannot really describe what this God is like other than loving and all good and immensely powerful and all-knowing by virtue of creating the substrate for experience that is the cosmos. So I can't create anything. Like I can make things, I can put things together, I can come up with ideas, but none of it is actually from first principles being created by me. So I believe in that. I believe in a creator in that way. But the fundamental Christian perspective is that I believe that God became human as a condition for creating a humanity at all. God could have created nothing. He really could have done anything that he wanted. But we know that we're here. So just from our own first principle understanding of human existence, we know that something is afoot, something is going on. So the Christian perspective on this, as I understand it, or as I will try to describe it, I haven't gone about trying to teach this to anyone in this sort of like literal, like almost like lecture format. So forgive me for unclarity, but I think that God, as a condition for creating free beings with free will, I believe we're really able to choose. I don't think everything is determined. I think we make choices that change the world in our lives. I think for God to be able to do that, he said, in the beginning, before there was anything, before there was time. That's what we really mean when we say in the beginning. It's like at the literal beginning of time's creation, light's creation. So I believe in the beginning, God made this decision to become man. And that's where God enters into this Trinitarian concept that Christians have. Christians believe in the Trinity, that God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But really, God is one thing. And it is, not to get too in the weeds here, but it's that decision to create the universe that creates a person-based perspective, because the universe is all about humans, essentially. It's about our ability to live and choose, and in a way, I guess you could reduce it all to that. So, but it's about each of us particularly, in our particularity and our uniqueness and our singularity. Like we are all, none of us are the same. Literally no two humans that have ever lived have ever been the same. So it's about the whole breadth of humanity. All right. So with that out of the way, the other major worldview thing that has shifted here, or at least has become more clear to me in my study of Catholic tradition, is that we have supernatural abilities, essentially. And that is what I would define as prayer. Or prayer is one of these things. Like we are not just in a natural material order, but we are also in an order with that which is invisible, that which is spiritual, and that which permits us to be directly connected with the Creator and perhaps directly connected with other spirits as well. I would say that as a Catholic, that we are all in communion. So that is an important note about the universe, given, say, the truth of that statement, is that we not only have effects on ourselves and on other people and on the world through our physical actions in the world, through what we do, through what we say, through what we write, through how we treat our body, but we also are able to tap into a relationship with the Creator of the universe so as to bring other things about. And we can bring other things about elsewhere in the world at different times and within our own lives, within our own souls. So, yeah, just had to get that out of the way, because going forward on the show, it's not like I'm going to be talking about that all the time, but that is like a fundamental worldview belief that I have. And so, to speak on this concept of pursuing peace, or making it an objective to have peace in one's life, I gave that preface because I need to establish this concept of what prayer is. And I don't think a lot of people really know what prayer is. I did not know what prayer was for a long time, even after I had been doing it for a while. Like, I think we all, even experienced people of prayer, I think we all need to humble ourselves to know that we do not really understand everything about it. We don't know all there is to know about it. I don't think anyone really does. And then some of the most experienced people to ever pursue that relationship with God that comes about through prayer are who we would refer to as saints in the Catholic tradition. And there's thousands of years of these individuals who have put pursuing peace at their number one objective, as their number one objective in life. And you can read about their lives, you can read their own writings, and see what that looked like for them to put their relationship with God before all else. Because while some actually do pursue, say, monasticism in the wilderness, in isolation, many do not. Because, like I said, we're all different people, and this path is literally going to look different for everyone. Say we were all trying to become saints and all made that our objective, and we were all going about it, with vigor and successfully, none of us would look the same. Still, we would all have our different gifts, we would all have our different backgrounds, we would all be unique people. Really, we would be maybe more unique if we all tried to do that than in any other circumstance, because it typically is the ways people come to resemble each other. I think they come about much more through sin and pain and hurt and trauma. I feel like that's what makes people and societies resemble each other more and more, is those ills and those structures that arise through evil actions that come about through human beings over time. So that could be just in one family's lifetime, it could be in one person's lifetime. You can see evidence of in a way, I almost want to use the word reification, but I don't think it really would be right. But this like manifestation, like evil is invisible until it's visible, and then its visible structures tend to resemble each other. That's really what I'm saying. And the entire history of humanity is one giant manifestation of evil. And I'm not saying that's the only thing that it is. I'm not saying it's bad that this happened. But if you look at the evolution of human society and how it has culminated in our current situation, it is a case study in understanding how invisible evils manifest themselves physically and psychologically in the world at mass and individual levels. So, yeah, anyway. So I'm just going to offer something I've been thinking about lately. And it was a friend who told me this. He gave me this way of thinking about it, and he was quoting some saint. I'm not sure who it was. But I think this is valuable for anyone who is trying to pursue peace in this world that steals peace from us constantly and would have us be anxious and vexed by all kinds of desires and worries. And yeah, so this concept is just a metaphor, basically. So I would define prayer as a raising of your heart and mind to God. I think that is the Catholic definition. And I'm not going to dwell too much on what that feels like, because it's really something I could get into later, but it's something that we have to experience for ourselves and go through many stages of ourselves, like sort of like stages of purification, of getting the rust off, of cleaning our hearts and cleaning our minds, cleaning our souls. And soul is kind of what I mean when I say mind. I don't just mean the brain. So this metaphor is just to think of prayer as our castle. And when I say it's our castle, what I really mean is it is our safe place. It is a place where we cannot be harmed by anything. So when we enter into prayer, this is a place where we can be protected from our worries, protected from the dangers of this world. And this is not something you can just, I mean, it varies. There, of course, it's different for everyone, like I'm saying, but it can be difficult to enter into prayer earnestly for the first time, or rather, not even for the first time, but to reach a regularity with prayer where you really feel that type of safety. Because you might be very scared, you might be confused, and you might need to get some gunk off before you're really feeling the effect of being in that castle. I don't know. But that's just not really what I'm trying to dwell on here. The fundamental thing is that through pursuing a practice of prayer in our lives, by praying every day, by praying an increasing amount every day, and by praying in different ways and for different things, we can free ourselves from all kinds of anxiety, all kinds of worry, all kinds of genuine danger in our lives. And so if that's the case, why don't we just stay in there all the time? Why do we go outside the castle? And when my friend and I were talking about this, we were talking about temptations to lust in particular, but it could be any temptation. And say there's like being outside of the castle, it's like veils start being put over your eyes, or maybe there's a fog outside of the castle, and suddenly you just kind of lose track of where you're at. And when you lose track of who you are and where you're at, which are really the same thing when you pursue them deeply, when you lose track, you put yourself in danger. And I can put this secularly in terms of, like, say you just get hooked on, like, I don't know, we're inundated with advertisements all the time. Maybe you just get hooked on scrolling on your phone because you forget that you're this amazing creation in an amazing universe that you don't understand and that no one has ever fully understood. And instead the neurological component of your body is being kind of hacked by the dopamine triggering system of scrolling and the so-called pleasure that you get out of that. And honestly, I've been writing a lot about this temptation stuff and referring to false pleasures, and like as time goes on, I'm kind of just like, maybe all pleasures are false pleasures, which is not to say I'm like, you know, like I feel very joyful in the pursuit that I'm on, but many of the pleasures that were offered in our society, I feel like it's such a high percentage are actually really bad for us and bad for our communities that it almost makes you wonder, like, about the concept of feeling good at all. So anyway, so basically many of us are not even in the castle to begin with, and the world and our maladaptations to the world, our different coping mechanisms, our different addictions lead us astray and pull us in all these different directions. And it can be hard to basically, you just get hurt out there. And in the context that my friend and I were talking about this, it was a war metaphor. So it wasn't just that we were in a castle, it was that the castle was under siege by the demonic. So that could be interpreted psychologically in sort of a death drive sense, where we have these drives that maybe come out of wounds that we've experienced in our childhood or in our biotraumatic experience or whatever it may be. Or out of sin and out of guilt, out of pain we've caused other people by our own choices. So sorry, I kind of lost track of what I was saying there. But yeah, we're using a war metaphor there. And I guess what I want to hone in on the most maybe is just that I think in our current in this society, I think most people are subject to extreme chaos of mind. I think a lot of people are totally at the whim of thoughts that they are not even really putting in their own head, thoughts that are not really their own. And I don't mean just like demonically inspired thoughts or something like that. I mean, when you are consuming so much media, the media forms your view of the world. So, like, people, whether it's a TV show or a live streamer or a YouTuber or whatever it is, like, all of this stuff is not coming from your own rational processing of your own experience. And we also are typically kept trying to survive in this restless ocean of unmet needs, I suppose, where it's hard to actually keep your body healthy with the food that's available to us. It's hard to actually afford to survive or to have a family or to have a home. It's just hard to... There's an intense stress that comes from trying to survive in a healthy way here. And so people tend to give up on, even if they ever conceptualized it, they'll give up on trying to live in that healthy way and settle for these other forms of living. And of course, we're all human, so there's lots of beauty and goodness that comes through and like penetrates these people's lives in their relations with each other and their relations with nature, their relations with existence. However, our society is not geared toward that at all. So I think most people suffer from an intense chaos in their mind. And it all just stacks up all these means of coping and these addictions that we have. So I wonder if I might pull up a quote here. Well, I'll read a couple quotes here, and then I probably have to head out. Oops. I bumped my keyboard, and I'm glad it didn't shut down the stream. So I'm going to read a few things from Scripture that maybe people have never heard before about some of the concepts I was just describing. And these were selected in this book I was reading called Spiritual Warfare and the Discernment of Spirits by Dan Burke. So I'm going to read a handful of quotes here, and then I'll talk about pursuing peace and keeping it in mind and dwelling upon it and finding it in the world. So this is John 14:27, and this is a quote from Jesus. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." So this is really something that one ought to meditate on. And all of these, I mean, all of Scripture is something you can meditate on. However, in the chaos of our world and the unending, I mean, much of it is rigged. Like, our dopamine systems are rigged to be seeking novelty and not slowing down and not reducing the pace of the day. And we're not inspired or encouraged to wash the day off of us and find who we are underneath it again. Instead, it all just builds up on top of us until we become unrecognizable, perhaps. And so I'm not really going to interpret this statement. I think it is something that if you set 10 minutes and you just read this statement very slowly, imagine it, like, let your imagination run with this statement. I think a lot will be revealed to you. But the two major things that I feel like unlock or blossom are not as the world gives do I give to you. Because we're very much in the world, and we're very much in a secular society, or we're very much in an anti-Christian society, I would say. Even the dominant forms of Christianity in America, I think, are anti-Christian. I think they are unrelated to what Christ wants us to actually be doing, with, of course, lots of exceptions. But I do think the dominant narrative that we receive about Christianity is false. I think I was never super interested in Christianity because I witnessed those popular forms of it, which are not true. When I investigated the actual intellectual theological tradition and went to the source, I found, that's not really what's going on here, or not what ought to be going on here. And anyway, that's related to why I'm Catholic and not Protestant. But so not as the world gives do I give to you. We are very much in the world, and we are not very familiar with God or the way that he gives or what he is really giving to us. And when we get adjusted to the world, we come to think that all the things we're used to in the world, that's the only way it's ever going to be. Like, we're only ever going to give if because we're expecting to get something back or something. Maybe that's how you were raised and that's how your parents treated you or something like that, and that's a lie that you learn about how you need to live. But God gives to us in another way. He gives to us out of pure love, expecting nothing in return, but offering us a great deal if we pursue him in this life. So similarly, let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Let not your hearts be troubled, let not your hearts be afraid. These are very strong statements. These are saying don't, it's period. It is just, do not let your hearts be afraid, do not let your hearts be troubled. Those sound like things that should be impossible if we're overly adjusted to living in this world, which all of us are. All of us have been overly adjusted to living in this world for the whole history of humanity. And that's what is radical and novel about Christ's teaching, even to this day, is that it is offering us something that seems impossible, but that is possible. So that's one quote, and I will read another one from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, Romans 12, 1-2. I appeal to you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may prove what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So he talks about presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. And many sacrifices, or if you think of religious or cultic sacrifices in the past, it would be the killing of an animal, say, or the burning of vegetation that could be good for food. It was to get rid of something as an offering. It's like, I could use this, I could eat this, but I'm going to kill it for the good of God, say. And so he's saying, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is to say, commit to living in a way that is contrary to this world. He says, do not be conformed to this world. Present yourself as a living sacrifice to something that is better, something that is peaceful, something that is perfect, and something that is loving. So, anyway, I think I'll just read one more, because then I have to go. Oh, maybe two more. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. The Lord is at hand. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So again, another huge statement. Have no anxiety about anything. And that, he means it. This is offered to us through a way of life that is an extreme relief compared to the world's way of life that the world offers to us. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. It will keep you. It is a peace that surpasses all understanding. Anyway, I'm just trying to give a little bit of scriptural background for this concept of the relationship between prayer and peace, because he is this is St. Paul talking about in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. Essentially, we have this relationship. The supernatural order in the world offers to us a relationship wherein, through our actively using our bodies to pray, to actually make ourselves a living sacrifice of time, sacrifice of desire or of will. Maybe I want to go to bed, but I'm actually going to kneel or stand and pray. That is a type of sacrifice, because it's cutting off, or it's destroying the thing that you wanted to do and that you very well could do. It's destroying a reality. You're sacrificing a reality that you could choose. And so there is this exchange that can happen whereby, entering into that closer connection with God, you can make supplications, you can ask for things, you can give thanks, and you can find yourself in a type of peace, and also in a better world, because you can change your world by virtue of the fact that that is like the causal. It's a different form of like metaphysical causality, which I will definitely go into in a different video, because I think that is one of the most beautiful things that I came to understand, which then brought me closer to converting to Christianity. It was when I understood how prayer could have material effects in the world at different times, like in the future or now. Honestly, potentially in the past, metaphysically speaking, but I haven't gone into the possibilities of that. But I mean, for anyone who knows, like when I was thinking about becoming Christian, or when I was trying to decide if God was all good or if God was neutral, because it was obviously not clear to me that we have an all good God. There's tons of suffering in the world. There's indescribable evils that take place in this world. So the other thing I was kind of thinking about was modal realism by David Lewis, I think is his name. Just like a kind of quirky analytic philosopher who's just like, his philosophy was that every modal statement, would or could statement, he was a modal realist. He's just like, all of that is happening. Anything that you could describe as happening is just happening, and that's what the universe is. Because experientially, like phenomenologically, that actually, I would be having this experience no matter what, if that was the case. Anyway, I put that aside. But I forget why I even brought that up. Oh, because he was like a time travel guy also, or he wrote on metaphysics of time travel. So it would be kind of funny to put those things together with my current understanding of what prayer is. Anyway, I took a class with one of his students, and that's really probably the only reason I really know who that is. But anyway, another quick quote from the Gospel of Luke 11, chapter 11, verse 9. And I tell you, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. This is an existential condition of the world. If you ask for things that are good, they are given to you. If you do not ask, they are, well, I'll put an asterisk on that, because we don't always know what is good. So we might be asking for something that we think is good, and it might not happen. And so that needs to be explored if you're really trying to figure this out rationally or logically. If you believe in this conceptually, you obviously should explore all of that. I'm not going to do that on the show right now, but I'm just mixing all this together with my current state of my worldview, existentially. And I believe in the efficacy of prayer. I believe that we have a responsibility to ask for things, because if you don't even ask, you will not receive. But I don't want that to sound overly exclusionary, as if you're shutting all doors by not praying for specific things, because I don't think it's exactly like that. It's obviously nuanced. But anyway, but really, the other thing that takes place here is there needs to be a kind of total trust in the creator of the world, a total trust in God, and that God became man to show us a way to freedom in this world, and really in the next. And with that trust, you can start putting aside all of the worries that you have in this world, all the concerns that you have, and in meditation and in prayer, which are literally essential. Like, this is not something you can do while keeping everything else normal in your life. Like, you need to at least like build up to 10, 30, 60 minutes a day of praying and meditating, because otherwise your mind is going to be in chaos. There's a level of this that does relate to disciplining the mind, but really it's not it's a supernatural form of discipline. It's not just to do those things that, like, you find a lot of this actually earlier on in my show, where because I've always been concerned with trying to live very fully. And a lot of the show was sharing my feelings or my tactics or strategies for how to live more fully in the world, because I used to be depressed. I used to be extremely dissociated. I still have a really intense anxiety disorder. And all of this stuff I've had since being a child and growing up in a dysfunctional family. So I've come a long way in trying to enter into the fullness of life. And now I realize, because of the supernatural element of the world, there's another essential component, and it's to connect directly with God. So anyway, you kind of get the idea. And in prayer, it's not I guess I could talk just a little bit about this. It's especially good to become as selfless as possible in your prayer. Like, you want to, pray to become selfless even, but to pray for good for all the people you know. Like, whenever I pray, I realize, like, I could do this all day. Like, I understand how there are so many cloistered monks and nuns who just pray all day, because there's a never-ending amount of things to pray about with nuance and with intensity and fervor. So with that in mind, I'll read one more thing before I hop off. And it's another quote from St. Paul. And this maybe connects most directly, regardless of your religious affiliation, with seeking this peace. Because the things that create chaos in our mind and pull us away from ourselves, they suck. Like, they just are negative. Like, there's always I just can't even describe the psychological state of mankind in the 21st century. It is it's brutal. We're being literally brutalized. Like, our brains are we might as well be having our skulls caved in with hammers a lot of the time. Just the level of information overload, overstimulation, all of that stuff. And so to set yourself apart from that for even just 10 minutes a day, and if you set a 10-minute timer or something, you're probably just going to go past it. When it goes off, you're going to be like, actually, I should do this for longer. And you should, especially if you feel that way. If you set 10 minutes aside to be like, I'm not going to let all those things in. In fact, I'm going to wash them all off of myself and replace them with something true and beautiful, and enter into a relationship with the creator who knows me better than anyone else knows me. If you do that, you will start to see how to pursue peace in this life. So this is a quote from St. Paul in his letter to the Philippians. And that's chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace will be with you. And it is when he lists all those things, whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, gracious, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Some other ways to translate that are ponder all these things, consider all these things, and maybe my favorite is dwell on all these things, and really dwell in all of these things. And that goes for, it doesn't need to be abstract. Think over your life. There have been things that have been lovely or excellent or beautiful at different times. Enter into that and dwell there for some amount of time in the day and find peace in those things. And then find a way to pursue that in your actions over the course of the day. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of some stuff I've been thinking about. Yeah, all right. Well, if you like the video, then like the video, leave a comment, tell your friends. And I don't know the exact schedule that I'm going to be on for this, but I'm definitely going to do multiple episodes per week. I'm out of town next week, so I don't know. I'll figure it out. I would like to have something regular because then people can count on it, and you know. All right, well, have a good night, everybody, and maybe see you tomorrow, Friday, whatever. I don't know. At some point. See you.